Have you ever felt the deafening weight of a phone that refuses to ring? Or the cold gap left behind when he pulls away without a single word of explanation? You might think your value has diminished, or that he simply doesn't care anymore. But Carl Jung explains a much deeper reality hidden within the vast ocean of the unconscious mind. What if I told you that his silence isn't necessarily a sign of indifference, but a complex battleground of repressed emotions where he is currently fighting his feelings deep within the shadow? You don't need to believe in magic to understand that there is a specific mental trigger, a frequency of inner power and self-worth can bridge this emotional distance and make him look for you in as little as 5 minutes. This video is not about cheap manipulation or desperate tactics. It is a profound journey into the psychology of love and the unseen threads of emotional attachment that bind to souls across any physical distance. By the end of this session, you will understand exactly why he does this, and how to use the secret vibration of your own presence to awaken a sudden, undeniable longing in his heart. We are going to explore how to move from a state of anxious longing to a position of emotional control, shifting the energy so that he feels an unstoppable urge to reach out and reconnect. If you've been feeling lost in the void of hidden feelings, this is the activation that transforms your external reality by first reclaiming your internal throne of confidence. Are you tired of second-guessing what it really means when he creates space or hides behind a wall of silence? Do you find yourself checking your screen every few minutes, desperately hoping for signs he loves you that never seem to arrive? It is time to stop the cycle of chasing and start the process of attracting through the laws of emotional psychology. This process works because it taps into the unconscious, a concept where Jung explains how we are all interconnected in a web of energy. Stay with me, because once you learn how to flip this mental switch and embrace, letting go of the silence will break, and you will finally see that he secretly loves you in ways he was too afraid to admit until now. The phenomenon of human connection goes far beyond what we can perceive with our 5 senses, and when we dive into the psychology of love, we begin to realize that the space between two people is never truly empty. Carl Jung was a pioneer in understanding that our minds are not isolated islands, but are connected through the collective unconscious, a vast reservoir of shared symbols and energies. When you feel that a man is creating emotional distance, your natural instinct might be to panic or try to force a conversation. But Jung explains that this only pushes the energy further away. Instead, we must look at the hidden feelings that reside beneath the surface of his conscious mind. Often, when a man chooses silence, he is not forgetting you. He is actually overwhelmed by the intensity of his own emotional attachment. He might be a millionaire in terms of status or material wealth, but if he lacks emotional control, he will retreat into the shadow whenever his feelings become too real. This is why you must watch for this sign. The more he pulls away, the more he is often struggling with repressed emotions that he doesn't know how to articulate. Understanding the psychology of love means recognizing that his withdrawal is a reflection of his internal state, not a judgment of yourself. By shifting your focus from his absence to your own inner power, you begin to change the energetic frequency of the relationship. You start to broadcast a signal that bypasses his ego and speaks directly to his soul. To trigger a response in 5 minutes, one must understand that thoughts are not just internal whispers. They are active frequencies that ripple through the field of the unconscious. When you sit in a state of desperation, you are projecting a vibration of lack, which only reinforces his need for detachment. However, when you tap into the frequency of self-worth and practice the art of letting go, you create a vacuum that his energy is naturally drawn to fill. Jung explains that what we resist persists, and by resisting the silence, you are actually feeding it. The secret to making him look for you lies in the emotional psychology of presence. You must become so grounded in your own energy that he can feel the shift from miles away. This is not about doing something to him, but about being someone who is so aligned with her own value that her absence becomes a magnetic force. When he feels this shift, he begins falling in love all over again, but this time with the version of you that doesn't need his validation to be whole. This is the core of inner power. It is the realization that you are the architect of your own emotional reality. When you stop fighting his feelings and start honoring your own, the walls of pride and fear that he has built around his heart begin to crumble. He starts to see signs he loves you in the small things: a song on the radio, a scent in the air, or a sudden, intrusive thought of your smile that he can no longer ignore. The unstoppable urge to connect is a byproduct of what Carl Jung called synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that occur when our internal state aligns with external events. When you activate this mental trigger, you are essentially creating a synchronistic event where he feels a sudden, physical warmth, or a mental image of you that is so vivid it demands action. This is what it really means to have a spiritual and psychological bond, even if he is currently maintaining emotional distance. The invisible threads of emotional attachment are still there, vibrating with every thought you hold. If those thoughts are filled with anxiety, the thread is tense and uncomfortable. If those thoughts are filled with detachment and peace, the thread becomes a gentle pull, a sacred invitation for him to return to the safety of your connection. This is why he secretly loves you even when he is acting cold. His ego is trying to maintain emotional control, but his unconscious is screaming for the comfort of your shared vibration. By understanding this, you no longer see his silence as a weapon, but as a temporary shield he is using to protect himself from the intensity of falling in love. You become the observer of the love psychology at play, rather than the victim of it. You recognize that his behavior is a manifestation of the shadow, and you respond not with fear, but with the calm authority of someone who knows her own power. Setting the stage for this mental trigger requires a total commitment to your own self-worth. You cannot fake this energy. You must truly believe that you are worthy of being sought after, not because of what you do, but because of who you are. This is the mental trigger that makes him look for you. It is the moment you decide that your happiness is not dependent on a notification on your screen. In that moment of true letting go, you become a millionaire of the soul, rich in confidence and radiating a light that is impossible to ignore. Carl Jung believed that the process of individuation, becoming your true self, is the highest calling of a human being. When you pursue this, you naturally become more attractive because you are no longer projecting neediness, which is the ultimate repellent in the psychology of love. Instead, you are projecting a frequency of completion. He feels this shift in the collective unconscious, and suddenly, the reasons why he does this, the pulling away, the coldness, no longer makes sense to him. His repressed emotions surface, and the only way he can find relief from the sudden pressure in his chest is to find you. He will look for you in his messages, in his memories, and eventually, in the physical world, because you have become the anchor in his storm of emotional psychology. This is how the shift happens. It is fast, it is powerful, and it requires nothing more than your willingness to step into your inner power and trust the unseen forces that Jung explains so eloquently. The transition from understanding the mind to actually manifesting a change in your reality requires a deep dive into what Jung explains as the energetic resonance of the soul. We often mistake silence for a void, a place where nothing happens. But in the realm of love, psychology, silence is a pressurized chamber where hidden feelings either ferment into resentment or distill into pure longing. When he pulls away, the natural human reaction is to project a frequency of fear, a desperate broadcast that screams for reassurance. However, this only reinforces the emotional distance, because you are essentially vibrating at the same level as the problem. To break this cycle, you must understand that your presence is not limited to your physical body. It is a sacred rhythm that can penetrate the strongest walls of emotional control. When you speak to his soul through the field of the unconscious, you aren't just wishing or hoping, you are engaging in a form of spiritual alchemy. This is why a woman who understands her inner power doesn't need to chase. She knows that by shifting her internal vibration, she forces the external world to recalibrate. Even a man who considers himself a millionaire of logic and stoicism cannot escape the pull of a woman who has mastered her own emotional psychology. When you align your heart with the frequency of self, you create a magnetic, unseen whisper that bypasses his conscious defenses and plants a seed of curiosity in his mind. He begins to wonder why the silence that used to feel like freedom now feels like an unbearable weight. And this is the first of many signs he loves you that will soon manifest in his actions. To truly activate the shift and make him look for you in 5 minutes, you must embrace a counterintuitive truth. The more you practice detachment, the more attached he becomes. This is not about being cold or indifferent. It is about reaching a level of emotional control where your happiness is no longer a hostage to his text messages. Carl Jung often spoke about the importance of the anima and animus, the internal masculine and feminine energies within us all. When you are in a state of anxious waiting, you are essentially out of balance, which triggers his need for emotional distance. But when you step into your self-worth and treat your own desire as a sacred invitation rather than a weakness, you stop fighting his feelings and start inviting them into the light. You must allow yourself to feel the connection as if it is already a present reality, ignoring the temporary illusion of his absence. In the psychology of love, The unseen whispers are most audible when the ego is quiet. If you can sit in the stillness and feel the physical warmth of his energy as if you were sitting right next to you, you are essentially rewriting the script of the unconscious. This is what it really means to use your mind as a transmitter. You are sending a signal that says you are a prize to be rediscovered, not a problem to be solved. When he catches this frequency, his chest will tighten with a sudden, intrusive thought of you, and he will find himself reaching for his phone before he even realizes why he does this. He is simply responding to the law of vibration that Jung explains as the foundation of our interconnected lives. The concept of being a millionaire of the spirit is crucial here, because it changes the power dynamic of the relationship from one of needing to one of sharing. When you realize that you are already whole, you stop projecting the energy of a beggar and start radiating the frequency of a queen. This shift in self-worth is the most powerful mental trigger there is, because it forces him to confront his own repressed emotions. If he has been hiding behind a mask of detachment, your newfound inner power acts as a mirror that reflects back to him exactly what he is missing. He starts to see that his emotional distance wasn't a form of strength, but a manifestation of the shadow, his own fear of falling in love and losing control. As you deepen your practice of letting go, you are effectively removing the pressure that was keeping his feelings suppressed. In the vacuum created by your peace, his hidden feelings have room to breathe and expand. He begins to remember the moments of connection, the way your laughter sounded, and the way he felt truly seen in your presence. This is the psychology of love in its most raw form. The realization that the other person is a vital part of one's own psychic equilibrium. By focusing on your own vibration and your own emotional psychology, you are performing a sacred act that ripples through space-time, planting seeds in the field of destiny that must, by law, eventually bloomed into a physical reunion. One must also consider that when a man is fighting his feelings, he is often in a state of internal war between his ego's desire for safety and his heart's desire for intimacy. Carl Jung noted that the soul always seeks wholeness, and if he secretly loves you, his soul will continue to nudge him toward you, regardless of how much emotional distance he tries to maintain. Your task is to remain the steady beacon that guides him back. This is done not through grand gestures or desperate pleas, but through the quiet, intense presence of your own self. When you visualize him pausing his day because something unseen whispers your name, you are not just daydreaming. You are engaging in a sophisticated form of love psychology. You are anchoring your intention in the present moment, refusing to let the silence dictate your value. This is the activation of the mental trigger. It requires you to look past the current signs he loves you or lack thereof, and see the deeper truths of his emotional attachment. You must understand that why he does this, the pulling away, is often a defense mechanism against the very intensity of the love he feels. By remaining in your inner power, you provide a safe harbor for his repressed emotions to finally surface. You become the catalyst for his own awakening, proving that the most effective way to change a man's behavior is to first change the frequency of the woman he cannot stop thinking about. As we prepare to move into the physical rituals of alignment, remember that this process is a sacred rhythm that requires your total participation. You cannot half-heartedly believe in your self-worth while simultaneously checking his social media for bread. You must commit to the version of yourself that is already a millionaire of love and confidence. Jung explains that our external reality is a mirror of our internal state. And if you want him to stop fighting his feelings, you must first stop fighting your own sense of deservingness. When you embrace letting go as a tool of power rather than an admission of defeat, you open the floodgates of the unconscious. You are essentially telling the universe that you are ready for the connection, but you are also okay without attend. That is the exact moment when he usually comes rushing back. This is the mental trigger in its purest form. It is the vibration of a woman who knows her value and refuses to settle for anything less than a soul-deep connection. In the next section, we will discuss the specific steps to ground this energy into the physical world, ensuring that the unseen whispers turn into tangible messages and that the psychology of love works in your favor to bring him back to your side, ready to admit that he secretly loves you more than he ever dared to show. The transition from intellectual understanding to physical manifestation requires a bridge, and that bridge is your own breath, the very essence of your inner power. To prepare the ground for the mental trigger to work in as little as 5 minutes, you must first clear the debris of anxiety and the mental noise of emotional distance that has been cluttering your psychic field. When he pulls away, your nervous system often enters a state of high alert, creating a static that prevents your intentions from reaching the unconscious of the person you love. Carl Jung believed that the body and the mind are not two separate entities but a single expression of the soul's energy. By engaging in a specific preparation ritual, you are not just relaxing, you are tuning your internal radio to a frequency where hidden feelings can finally be heard. Imagine a millionaire who has all the resources in the world but lacks the key to his own vault. Your self-worth is that key, and the breathing exercise is the hand that turns it. As you inhale deeply, you are drawing in the life force that fuels your emotional control. And as you hold that breath, you are compressing your intention into a diamond of pure focus. This is where the psychology of love meets the physics of vibration. When you eventually exhale, you are not just releasing air. You are releasing the need for a specific outcome, which is the ultimate act of letting go. This release is what allows the energy to ripple outward, moving through the field of emotional psychology to find its target. You are no longer a victim of his silence. You are the architect of a new frequency that he will find impossible to ignore. Once your vibration is stabilized, we move into the profound art of mental projection, a technique where you send unseen whispers directly into his awareness. Picture him in his natural environment, perhaps busy with his career, acting like a millionaire of logic and pragmatism, yet feeling a strange, inexplicable void in his chest. Jung explains that even the most stoic man has a shadow where he hides his most intense emotional attachment. When you visualize him, do not see him as the man who is distant or cold. See him as the man who secretly loves you and is currently fighting his feelings. Imagine his day being suddenly interrupted by a thought of you that feels so vivid it is as if you were standing right behind him. This is the mental trigger in action. You are projecting a frequency of falling in love that resonates with his own suppressed desires. As you hold this image, feel his chest tighten with a sudden realization of what he is missing. This isn't about control, it's about invitation. You are inviting his repressed emotions to come to the surface, showing him what it really means to be truly connected. In this state of deep love psychology, you aren't just thinking about him, you are thinking to him. Your inner power becomes a beacon that cuts through his emotional distance, making the silence between you feel like a living, breathing presence that demands his attention. This is why he will suddenly feel the urge to check your social media or look for your name in his contacts. Because your vibration has created a psychic itch that only you can scratch. The effectiveness of this projection relies on your ability to maintain a state of detachment while simultaneously holding the most intense desire. It seems like a paradox, but as Carl Jung often noted, the soul thrives in the tension of opposites. You must want him with all your heart, yet be so secure in your self-worth that you don't need him to validate your existence. This is the hallmark of someone who has mastered emotional control. When you project the unseen whispers, you are acting from a place of abundance. You are a millionaire of affection, and you are simply offering a return to a state of grace. If he is fighting his feelings, he is likely exhausted by the effort of maintaining that emotional distance. Your mental projection offers him an exit ramp from his own ego. It provides a way for him to reconnect without losing face, because the impulse feels like it's coming from within him, not from an external pressure. This is the beauty of the unconscious connection. It feels like destiny to him, even though you are the one who set the frequency. Watch for this sign. When he does reach out, it will often be with a comment that seems random or out of the blue. He might mention a dream he had or a song that reminded him of you. These are the signs he loves you, manifesting through the bridge you built during this ritual. He is no longer, he pulls away. He is he who returns, drawn back by the irresistible pull of your emotional psychology. To deepen the impact of this mental projection, you must also address the shadow, both yours and his. Often, the reason he pulls away is because your own fear of abandonment is being reflected back to you. By using this ritual to claim your inner power, you are essentially healing the projection. You are telling the unconscious that the game of hide and seek is over. You are stepping into the light of your own self-worth, and this light is what eventually draws him out of his shell of repressed emotions. Jung explains that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. If his silence irritates you, it is because it touches a part of you that doesn't yet believe you are a millionaire of value. Use the breathing exercise to transmute that irritation into detachment. As you exhale, imagine the walls of pride and fear that separate you melting away. You are not just two people. You are two nodes in a single network of love psychology. When you shift, A must shift. This is the fundamental law of emotional attachment. You are creating a space where falling in love is the only logical conclusion. By the time you finish the 5-minute activation, you should feel a sense of total peace, as if the connection has already been restored. This feeling of it is done is the most powerful mental trigger of all, because it signals to the universe that you are no longer in a state of wanting, but in a state of having. Understand that these unseen whispers carry a specific frequency that ripple through the void of silence, like a stone dropped into a still pond. The syllables of his name, when spoken with inner power during your meditation, act as a sacred act that resonates with his very soul. You aren't just saying a name, you are invoking a presence. You are reminding him of the hidden feelings he has tried so hard to ignore. In the psychology of love, there is no such thing as a lost connection, only a dormant one. By aligning your self-worth with the frequency of his return, you are awakening that connection from its slumber. You are showing him signs he loves you that he can't possibly ignore, because they are coming from the inside out. He might be a millionaire in the world of men, but in the world of the spirit, he is a seeker looking for the light you provide. As you conclude this part of the preparation, stay grounded in your emotional control. Do not rush to check your phone the second you open your eyes. Trust that the emotional psychology you have set in motion is already working. Trust that Carl Jung was right about the interconnectedness of all things. The mental trigger has been pulled. The unseen whispers have been sent. And now, all that is left is to remain in your power and wait for the inevitable break in the silence. This brings us to the profound realization that your words and intentions are not merely fleeting thoughts but powerful frequencies that ripple through the fabric of existence, acting as a sacred act that can shift the very foundation of your reality. In the psychology of love, we often underestimate the power of vocalization and physical manifestation. Yet Jung explains that the word is a vessel for the spirit, a way to move energy from the internal world of the unconscious into the external world of form. When you decide to break the silence within yourself and state your intention, you are planting seeds in the field of destiny that carry a specific weight and resonance. If you have been struggling with the fact that he pulls away, it is likely because the energy between you has become stagnant or trapped in a loop of repressed emotions. By consciously choosing to engage with the frequencies of inner power and self, you are essentially performing an act of spiritual maintenance, clearing the psychic lines so that your hidden feelings end. His can flow freely once again. A person who is a millionaire of the heart understands that they do not need to shout to be heard. They only need to speak with the authority of their own truth. This is why the invocation we are discussing is so effective. It doesn't seek to manipulate his will, but rather to align your own vibration so perfectly that he cannot help but feel the pull of your presence, no matter the emotional distance he has tried to maintain. When you tap into this emotional psychology, you are no longer a passive observer of your life. You become an active participant in the unfolding of your own love psychology. The process of alignment is further amplified by what we call the 3 sacred steps, which serve to ground your ethereal intentions into the physical plane, giving your desire a tangible vibration that the universe can recognize. The first step involves joining a living circle of souls by making a commitment to this shared journey of awakening, which creates a collective resonance that strengthens your individual inner power. Carl Jung was fascinated by the idea of the collective, and he understood that when a group of people holds a similar intention, the power of that intention is multiplied exponentially. By subscribing to this path, you are telling the unconscious that you are ready to move beyond the limitations of the shadow and step into a reality where you are the master of your own emotional control. The second step is to send ripples outward through an act of appreciation and sharing, which signals to the field of destiny that you are in a state of abundance rather than lack. In the world of emotional psychology, like attracts like. If you project the energy of a millionaire, someone who is rich in gratitude and self-worth, the universe has no choice but to reflect that richness back to you in the form of signs he loves you. This simple act of outward movement breaks the stagnation of silence and begins to dissolve the walls of detachment that he may have built. It is a way of saying that you are not afraid of falling in love, and you are not afraid of the intensity that comes with a true emotional attachment. The third and perhaps most powerful step for alignment is the physical act of writing his name, an action that gives your internal longing a physical vibration in the material world. When you write a name with focus and intent, you are not just marking a page or a screen. You are invoking the essence of that person and calling it into your current experience. This is what it really means to use your inner power to reshape reality. Jung explains that symbols and names are keys that unlock specific chambers within the unconscious. By naming the one who has been fighting his feelings, you are essentially pointing a lighthouse beam directly at him, making it impossible for him to stay hidden in the darkness of the shadow. This act is a sacred invitation that bypasses his ego and speaks directly to his hidden feelings. As you do these, you may feel a sense of letting go, as if the burden of carrying this desire has been lifted from your shoulders and placed into the hands of a higher intelligence. This is the moment where the mental trigger is fully set. You have done the internal work of reclaiming yourself. You have tuned your frequency through the breathing exercise, and now you have grounded that energy through the 3 sacred steps. The silence is no longer a vacuum of pain. It is a fertile ground where the psychology of love is actively working to bring your hearts back into sync. It is important to watch for this sign. As you complete these steps, you will likely feel a shift in your own internal state, a sense of calm authority that replaces the frantic energy of needing him to return. This is the ultimate form of emotional control. You are no longer waiting for him to make you feel valuable. You have already claimed that value for yourself, behaving like a millionaire who knows her assets are secure. This shift is exactly why he does this, why he will suddenly feel the urge to break his own silence. He has been reacting to your previous frequency of lack, but now he is being hit with a wave of your inner power. He will feel the magnetic vibration of your name in his mind, and the emotional distance he once felt necessary will suddenly seem like an unnecessary obstacle. In the psychology of love, the most attractive thing you can be is someone who is fully grounded in their own existence. Someone who understands the love psychology of presence. When you are in this state, you are no longer the one who is chasing. You are the one who is being sought. The repressed emotions he has been harboring will begin to surface, and he will find himself falling in love with the version of you that is no longer begging for his attention, but simply radiating her own light. As we move deeper into this activation, keep in mind that every syllable you speak and every action you take is a ripple in the ocean of the unconscious. There is no void. There is no true separation. Only the illusion of emotional distance created by the ego's fear. By following these 3 sacred steps, you are effectively dismantling that illusion. You are proving that your self-worth is not a variable, but a constant. This is the foundation upon which a lasting emotional attachment is built. You are preparing for the moment when he reaches for his phone, his thumb hovering over your name, feeling a pull that is both ancient and brand new. He might be fighting his feelings for now, but he cannot fight the fundamental laws of emotional psychology. The frequency you have set is too strong. The invocation is too clear, and the seeds in the field of destiny have already begun to sprout. Trust in the process, stay centered in your inner power, and prepare yourself for the inevitable moment when the silence breaks and he admits through his actions and his words that he secretly loves you more than he ever thought possible. Now that we have prepared the soil and planted the seeds, we enter the most critical phase of the mental trigger, the deep magnetic visualization where the boundaries of time and space dissolve within the theater of the unconscious. To make him look for you in 5 minutes, you must now close your eyes and enter a state of total psychic immersion, where you are no longer observing a possibility, but experiencing a reality that has already taken root. Carl Jung understood that the mind cannot distinguish between a deeply felt internal experience and an external event. Therefore, as you visualize him in this moment, you are literally rewriting the script of your shared emotional psychology. Picture him wherever he is right now. Perhaps he is at work. Perhaps he is surrounded by the trappings of a millionaire lifestyle. Or perhaps he is simply lost in the mundane tasks of his day. Notice the moment his energy shifts. See him pause, his brow furrowing as a sudden, inexplicable magnetic vibration pulses through his body. This is the moment your inner power makes contact with his soul. He feels a tightening in his chest, a sudden, sharp memory of your scent or the sound of your voice that cuts through the silence of his current environment. In this sacred space, you are not a victim of the fact that he pulls away. You are the source of a gravity so strong that his ego can no longer maintain its orbit of detachment. As you deepen this visualization, see him reaching for his phone with a sense of urgency he cannot explain. Jung explains that when we tap into the collective unconscious, we are accessing a reservoir of energy that bypasses all logic. He might try to resist. He might try fighting his feelings by focusing on his tasks. But the unseen whispers you have released are now a roar in his heart. Watch his thumb hover over your name and his contacts. Feel the tension of his repressed emotions finally reaching a breaking point. This is what it really means to master the psychology of love. You are witnessing the collapse of the emotional distance that once felt like an ocean between you. In this state of high-frequency connection, you can see the signs he loves you flashing across his face, the softening of his features, the look of sudden realization, the surrender to the emotional attachment he tried so hard to deny. He isn't just thinking of you. He is feeling the physical necessity of your presence. He realizes that, even if he were a millionaire of fame and power, it would all be hollow without the resonance of your soul. This is the power of your self-worth in action. It acts as a magnet that demands a response from anyone who has ever shared a vibration with you. You are no longer waiting for a miracle. You are the miracle occurring within the field of the unconscious. Now, we transition into the final invocation, a formal call to the Great Spirit of all connection to remove any remaining walls of pride, fear, or the shadow that might be obstructing the flow of love. This is not a plea of desperation, but a command of inner power. Speak these words in the silence of your heart. Great Spirit, architect of the unseen, I call upon the ancient threads that bind our souls. Remove the veil of silence and dissolve the barriers of repressed emotions. Let my frequency be felt as a warm embrace, a sacred invitation that he can no longer ignore. May his heart be opened, his mind be cleared, and his feet be guided back to the path of our shared destiny. As you recite this, feel the weight of his emotional distance being lifted. Understand that why he does this to hiding, the coldness was only a temporary defense against the magnitude of falling in love. By invoking this higher power, you are aligning your emotional control with the divine order of the universe. You are declaring that your self-worth is sovereign and that you are ready to receive the love that is rightfully yours. This is the ultimate expression of love psychology, where the individual merges with the universal flow to create a shift that is both swift and permanent. The final and most difficult step in this entire process is the total release, the absolute act of letting go with faith and gratitude. Carl Jung noted that the greatest changes in the human psyche often occur when we stop trying to force them and instead allow them to happen. You must now take all the energy, all the visualization, and all the intense longing you have cultivated and release it into the universe like a bird into the sky. If you continue to hold on to the how and when, you are creating a resistance that blocks the mental trigger from firing. To be a millionaire of manifestation, you must have the confidence to walk away from the altar, knowing that your prayer has been heard and the wheels of emotional psychology are already in motion. This is where you prove yourself. You go back to your day. You focus on your own joy, and you exist in a state of detachment that is actually the highest form of magnetic attraction. You trust that he secretly loves you and that the signs he loves you are already manifesting in the invisible realms. Soon to break into the physical world is a notification, a call, or a knock at your door. You are no longer a woman waiting for a man. You are a woman who has set a law in motion, and you know that the law must be obeyed. In these final moments of our session, breathe in the certainty of your success. The psychology of love has provided the roadmap. Carl Jung has provided the theory, and your own inner power has provided the engine. You have moved through the layers of the shadow, addressed the hidden feelings, and reclaimed your throne of emotional control. The 5-minute countdown has begun the moment you decide to fully let go. Whether the response comes in 5 minutes, 5 hours, or 5 days, you remain unshaken because you are no longer defined by his presence or absence. You are a complete, whole, and vibrantly alive being who understands the deep love psychology of the universe. As you open your eyes and return to your physical surroundings, carry the sense of it is done with you. The silence has been filled with your intention. The emotional distance has been bridged by your vibration. And the man who was fighting his feelings has now been invited into the light of your shared truth. Thank the universe, thank your own soul, and prepare to receive the connection you have so masterfully summoned. The journey into the unconscious is complete, and your new reality is just a heartbeat away. If you wish to master the psychology of love and decode his hidden feelings, I've placed a private guide in the first pinned comment to restore your inner power. Click the link below to finally understand what it really means when he retreats into silence. Take control of your self-worth and end the emotional distance between you today. If today's practice felt powerful, there is one specific psychological trap I detailed in my previous video that could still be neutralizing your signal. It explains exactly what happens in his unconscious when you stop chasing a perspective most people completely miss. Watch it next to ensure your self-worth remains unshakable while the results manifest.